500 years ago, the world ended. From the ruins of apocalypse, Europe rebuilt itself through memory, ambition, and war. And for centuries, no power shaped the continent more than the Empire Gallic, the great French empire forged by Isidore I of House Bonaparte. But 50 years before our story begins, that empire was broken. Defeated in war by Britannia, its authority collapsed, and the lands it once ruled shattered into rival states and opportunistic splinter realms. Now, the Bonapartes cling to only a handful of territories in northern France, and in the Low Countries, one breakaway state has risen above the others, the Empire of Europa, a young power that claims it can lead the continent where Gallia failed. It is into this fractured world that Nicolas is born, a bastard of the Bonaparte bloodline, cast out by the very family whose blood he carried. Banished from the ruins of France, he finds refuge in Europa, where the daughter of its first emperor offers him a home, not out of kindness, but to use him. To her, Nicolas is a weapon, a puppet, a Bonaparte in exile who can be made to serve Europa's independence against the old French order. But history is rarely shaped by the heirs who are chosen for it. Sometimes it belongs to the bastard who survives. And with that, welcome to another Crusader Kings story. Today we are entering a new era old world, a total conversion mod placed in the year 2555. 500 years ago, humanity was decimated by an apocalyptic event, which brings us into a neo-medieval age at the point of our start date. Today we are starting as a 400-point custom character, Count Nicolas of Aachen, who we will add to the house of Bonaparte. With him, we will write our own custom story as we do so often on this channel. There already is a legitimate ruler of the Bonaparte dynasty over here as the King of France. However, fellow YouTuber SoulTomato made a great video about him and his story, so if you would like to experience that, please go over there and check out his video. If you liked the video, please consider commenting, liking and subscribing. But now, without further ado, let's start right in. Here we are with Count Nicolas Bonaparte, a brave, ambitious and deceitful man. He is a 4-star general and a defender on the battlefield. He is a bastard, he is a disloyal and a man of quick thinking. Nicolas was raised in the Carolingian faith, a faith that worships Charlemagne as the Sun King and awaits his return at the end of times to restore the old order. While the faith does not believe in afterlife, their most sacred mission is to restore the crown of France. They will use every possible means to restore that order and are prepared to use force to do so. As Nicolas was still raised in France for the most time of his childhood, he is part of the French metropolitan culture, which is centered in central France and around Paris. As an interesting tradition, we carry the Republican legacy in our culture. Thanks to the mod Be Someone's Child, I have added ourselves to the Bonaparte dynasty. The link to that mod is in the description as well as every other used mod. Looking at the family tree, we can see all living members of our dynasty right here. We are the nephew of the current King of France. However, his side of the family, himself and his children, have rejected us and banished us into exile in our youth, so we fled to Europa. Our mother, Princess Galadriel, is married to a French noble and couldn't help us from her new home. She, by the way, has sworn never to reveal who Nicolas' true father is. And that is where our feud with the Bonaparte main branch begins. All descendants of Aragon shall be our historic rivals further on, and we will do everything that Nicolas can to undermine their government and to make them fall. Luckily, Nicolas found a new home and patron in the Empire of Europa, which is the Grand Duchess Charlotte of the Schengen dynasty. She granted him lands at 12 years of age in Aachen, only 1 year after being exiled from France. He has been loyal to Charlotte since she granted him those lands, but is slowly realizing that she is only using him to proclaim Europa's independence and dominance over Central Europe, while she herself is looking to claim the title of her brother, who has become the new Emperor of Europa after her father's death. So we will see how their relation evolves, but it is very likely that Nicolas is slowly turning against her, as he is done with getting used by anyone. Like many others in the Empire of Europa, Charlotte is following a Europeanist faith. She and her family are following the mysteriosophy. They hold that the creator is revealed via lived experience through sensations such as ecstasy, awe, and suffering. Now that he is of legal age, Nicholas seeks to make a name for himself in his new home. So he is planning an invasion of the county of Flevoland, where an Anglican invader sits right on the coast of the Low Countries. Promising a great wedding and military support in future campaigns, Nicholas was able to arrange a betrothal with Princess Erika of Sweden of the House of Bernadotte. The House of Bernadotte has ruled Sweden for centuries, even before the apocalyptic collapse, and it is said that they descend from a Marshal Bernadotte, who was a marshal of Napoleon Bonaparte, the father of Europe itself, who then, in an interesting turn of events, took the crown of Sweden for himself. The plans for war are made, and Nicholas is launching his invasion of the county of Flevoland to banish the barbaric English from the European coast. Proving himself as a great commander on the battlefield, he has won his very first battle and has beaten the Anglican troops. After occupying the city, he firmly annexes them into the territory of the Empire of Europa and keeps it under his direct control with the consent of the Emperor. The Grand Duchess just lost her husband and a lot of support within her own army and her nobility while claiming the Duchy of Trier from the Rhinebund, and is now in a very weakened state, which Nicholas will take advantage of. Over the past few years, the relationship between Nicholas and Charlotte has grown more distant. Nicholas has promoted his own name and identity and has completely withdrawn from Charlotte's control, who has landed her own daughters in the counties of Kleve and Cologne, granting them a first fiefdom within the empire. Nicholas claims that citizens of the local towns have come to him seeking aid from disastrous mismanagement and overly harsh ruling of her daughters. Embracing the Republican legacy, he will invade their territories and thus start the liberation from tyranny of the local citizens. That wasn't really a war, that was more like an occupation. By simply marching along the Rhine, city after city fell to Nicholas. The small units that stood in his way were simply overrun. Having moved against her children, Charlotte, of course, is outraged by us. We have publicly humiliated her and her family. However, she cannot expect to get any help from her brother, the Emperor, as he is absolutely aware of her trying to steal his throne. So she is on her own against Nicholas. Nicholas will now keep peace for a while, forging alliances and integrating himself in the European power web to brace himself for the revenge of the Grand Duchess. While Nicholas has managed to maintain the status quo over the past 10 years, he has become fully integrated now into the European political landscape. For example, his half-sister is now married to the son of the King of Belgium, who himself, interestingly, is a half-brother of Duchess Charlotte. So that is a pact meant for defense. The King of Belgium would support Count Nicholas in his defense against his own half-sister if she would dare to move against him. To also become more accepted among all of the European people, Nicholas has chosen to convert to a Europeanist faith. However, he does not really believe in that, but does that only for practical reasons. He will not convert to mysteriosophy, but he will convert to a local cult recently spreading among the people of Cologne, the Strebenden Orden, or the Striving Knights. The Striving Knights are a Europeanist school of thought related to mysteriosophy. Although, while the adepts of the Great Mystery adopt a passive, receptive, and contemplative stance toward the sublime and living cosmos, the striving ones are defined by Streben, an active, willful, defiant, creative, and passionate pursuit of the unachievable. They embody an endless struggle to grasp the unreachable, infinite, and perfect, ever questing for the infinite and hidden meaning of the cosmos. They are rebellious and passionate heirs of Titanism and Sturm und Drang, radical humanists who claim divine attributes for humanity, at times defying cosmic, natural, and social limits. They fight tyranny and the grey misery of man, devoting their lives to the all-consuming, often hubristic effort to surpass human limitation, even knowing the struggle must end in defeat. We still have the chivalric ideals. We we have the divine spark. We believe that all of creation stems from the divine spark of the supreme being, and its refinement through art, albeit limited by our understanding, offers us a window to glimpse the truth. And we also do have the ascendancy tenant, which grants us conquest cast spells and invasion CBs. Our laws are not defined by any virtues or moral maxims, but by the pursuit of greatness that is the duty of each follower. It is our responsibility to rebel against the limits of humanity and claim our own divinity. We are a Dionysian and pantheist faith. That means our worship is marked by emotion, access, and institution, and we find kinship in those seeking the truth in the same ways as we do. And God is reality. Any other gods are merely an aspect or interpretation of the supreme being and must be acknowledged and studied with as much respect as any other. Due to these two doctrines, mechanic-wise, we basically consider every other faith as stray, and nobody is seen as evil or hostile, which means we are not allowed to wage any holy wars. We have lay clergy and no head of faith, so we abandon priesthood altogether. Every single striving knight is responsible for its streben for himself. There are no bastards in the Europeanist faiths. That is not only for the striving knights, but also for all other Europeanist faiths, as far as I know. So in the community of the Europeanists, we are truly acknowledged as a legitimate child of the Bonaparte lineage, which of course further boosts our legitimacy. So the striving knights are more active and direct in their belief that mankind must challenge its limits through will, defiance, and relentless ambition, and Nicholas will patronize their order, and soon he intends to claim its leadership and steer towards a new purpose: the unification of Europe. Glory to Providencia. Mechanic-wise, we are not losing the bastard trait and gaining the wild oat trait. That doesn't work for us. So once our child is born, we will form a new dynasty. With his first child born, his daughter Galadriel, Nicholas forms a new dynasty and a new house, the house of Bonaparte Bernadotte. The King of Sweden has, with the official marriage of Nicholas and Princess Erika, acknowledged the legitimacy of Nicholas and granted him permission to use his COA and house name to form a cadet branch, including both of them. Additionally, he has granted him the titular title of Prince of Sigtuna, which is a plot of land next to Stockholm, further boosting his legitimacy. For the coat of arms of the House of Bonaparte Bernadotte, we have combined both of them. At the bottom we have the COA of the House of Bernadotte, and at the top we have the Napoleonic eagle. With his political ties strengthened, Nicholas feels strong enough to claim the old title of the Duchy of Cologne for himself, which he will in time reform into the Duchy of Aachen. Looking at the cultural map mode, we can see we have multiple interesting cultures in our realm. For example, the Belgian culture over here, which have the Mosaic heritage and Mosaic language. So the Mosaic cultures are cultures that have formed from French overlordship over the German lands and the lands in the Low Countries. So the Mosaic heritage and language are for themselves already a hybrid heritage and language from French and German cultures. So I think we will work on hybridizing our culture with one of those cultures, accepting the Mosaic heritage. And I've also added the nickname Prince of Sigtuna to Nicholas with the custom nickname mod. With his marriage to Erika of Sweden, Nicholas was granted the honorary title of Prince of Sigtuna. Having further promoted the idea of the county of Aachen being the capital of the princely estates, Nicholas now has formalized renaming the Duchy of Cologne, switching the central bureaucracy and administration from Cologne to Aachen. Nicholas will now seek to expand his influence within the Grand Duchy of Mosel, annexing more territories, fabricating dubious claims and casus belli against his neighboring counties, while still being backed and strengthened by the King of Belgium, the King of Sweden, and multiple other alliances. If you want to increase your influence and prestige in life, why don't you hit the subscribe and like button so you don't miss out any of the next videos on this channel. Twist of fate. While Nicholas was arranging a murder plot against the Grand Duchess, she has died on consumption, splitting her realm between her children and her granddaughter, the new Grand Duchess. Agatha has married Lobon and chosen him as her Grand Duke, weakening her claim and her stand among the nobility. Nicholas announces to end ongoing border disputes between the county of Koblenz, which he has subjugated just a year ago, and the county of Trier for some lands between both capitals, and raises his army to enforce peace, taking control of Trier and installing a loyal ruler as governor until the region is pacified and all disputes ended. As the Countess of Saarbrücken will join the county of Trier in their defense, Nicholas probably will see no other option than straight marching into Saarbrücken as well, subjugating their city and integrating it into his realm. Having crushed their armies, the citizens of Saarbrücken open their gates to Nicholas, accepting their fate and expelling the old noble families. The time has come to overthrow the Schengen dynasty in Moselle. For that, Nicholas hatches a plot to seize power in a coup and lays claim to the throne of the Grand Duchy. The Grand Duchess has prevented the coup and is rallying her forces to march against Nicholas. An open war is upon us. In the hard-fought Battle of Trier with equal numbers, Nicholas' forces have defeated the allied forces of the Grand Duchess. In the following Battle of Aachen, her troops are completely crushed and lose all organization. With most of the Moselic core territories besieged and occupied, Agatha has no other option than surrendering. And Nicholas, always the ambitious, forces her to abdicate the Grand Duchy and places the crown of Moselle on his own head. As the Schengen rulers, Agatha and also Princess Zoe have been vassalized, they need to be soon taken care of to stabilize our rule. Others, like the Duke of Lorraine, are choosing the side of Nicholas, even marrying his daughter and heir to Nicholas' son. Nicholas is campaigning for the idea of electing him as the next emperor, even though the likelihood is very low. The young emperor of the Schengen dynasty has finally decided to move against the rising Bonaparte Grand Duke and is trying to revoke our titles, which Nicholas is of course going to decline and rise up in rebellion against him. We are finally meeting the Emperor's troops in battle after they have already taken down Aachen, but Nicholas brought his family into security before the Emperor's troops could reach the capital, so nobody was actually captured. And in battle, the glorious Aachener troops have broken the formation of their enemies and won the battle for themselves. In another hard-fought battle, the Emperor was actually captured on the battlefield, which leads to him accepting peace and abdicating his throne to the next in line, which this time is not Nicholas himself, as he feels like he has not enough support from the nobility right now. So for now, the territories of the old emperor are split between a child in the Netherlands and an empress of the Verne dynasty, who is actually the mother of the old emperor. Well, the new empress seems to carry her son's aversion against Nicholas within her and tries to revoke him from power as well. With the empress captured, Nicholas forces just another ruler into abdication. However, that leads to the young Empress Johanna on the throne of Europa. Due to the recent hostile actions of the emperors of the Schengen-Verne dynasty, Nicholas is finally preparing to make an aggressive move and take the throne for himself. The Empress is currently fighting off an invasion of Doggerland, which troops she is beating at the moment, but that is a point of weakness. And Nicholas is going to use that point of weakness, openly raising his troops and calling the banners to march on the capital of Den Haag. As expected, her counselors are refusing to give up her throne to Nicholas, and open war it is. With his troops bolstered by some mercenaries, the Empress troops stand no chance against Nicholas. Our troops have sieged their way up to Den Haag and Amsterdam, taking down the capital and the surrounding lands. So Nicholas is now able to enforce the abdication and his claim on the throne of Europa, finally bringing stability to Europe again. Vive L'Empereur! Nicholas Bonaparte Bernadotte has done it. He has claimed the Empire of Europa for himself. To secure the rule of his family for the next generations, he will have to destroy the old power structures, deposing and exiling all the old Schengen-Verne nobility. The only exception he will make is Prince Emmanuel Bern, who is his brother-in-law, and his children. they shall become the new kings of Belgium. But all other members of the Schengen and Verne dynasty need to be taken care of, titles revoked, executed, or banished into exile. The Schengen revolt has begun, granting Nicholas the excuse to purge them. To ensure peace, Nicholas is suspending the elections and will instead name his successor in his will, breaking with the Schengen traditions. Our rival king, King Passepartout of France, who has been named High King of the Palatine throne in the meantime, is defending against a double crusade. The crusade from the Pope of Rome is targeting the Kingdom of France, while the Pope of Seville is targeting the Kingdom of Occitan. The Roman crusade was successful, and the Catholics have crowned Queen Marie as Queen of France, humiliating the High King, but also taking our ancestral homelands, which Nicholas can never approve of. Passepartout is exiled to one province at the border of the Alpi-Reich, while all his brothers and sisters have been exiled and are now adventurers and wanderers. We are now creating a hybrid culture with the Belgians. We will keep the ceremonious ethos, the Mosaic heritage of the Belgians, but we will keep the North French language. The idea behind that is that we will accept the Mosaic heritage for our new realm, creating a true and unique European identity, while language-wise that new culture is French-dominated. The culture will be named Renoir after the river Rhine, which flows right in the center of our realm and along our capital counties. Tradition-wise, we will keep a nice mix of the Belgian and metropolitan cultures. We will have chanson de geste, republican legacy, parochialism, ancient miners, cultivated sophistication, and defiant. And finally, for the aesthetics, we are staying mostly French, or overall French actually, continental European, French, continental European, French, and French. So nothing special here, really embracing the aesthetic of the French people, of our ancestors. Only 2 out of 6 vessels will convert. That doesn't really matter much for us at the moment, and we are forming the Renoir culture. Nicholas has established his son and heir, Napoleon Bonaparte, as king of the Netherlands and has married him to Mathilda von Schengen, who is the last ruling Schengen in our realm and the sister of the former Empress Johanna. In exchange for her loyalty and the marriage, further boosting the Bonaparte claim on Europa, she was allowed to keep her remaining lands and have her half-siblings spared from exile. As you can see, all former Schengen territories have been annexed and their rulers exiled or executed. Emperor Nicholas has died at 77 years of age. Always the ambitious man, he had formed Europa into something greater and secured it for his line and his descendants, led by the new emperor, Napoleon Bonaparte. While Nicholas had many successes on the battlefield and in the political game, he was denied his ultimate revenge on the western line of the Bonapartes, who are still exiled into the southern provinces and shall by Nicholas' last will be taken down by his descendants. But will they honor his last will, or will they simply forget the past? We will see where Emperor Napoleon will go from here. Being an ambitious man himself, he has dreams of his own. Emperor Napoleon has used the first years of his reign to reorganize the realm and share his power with his siblings and family members. The entire realm is now centered around the Bonaparte dynasty. As part of this process, Napoleon has adopted the new coat of arms of Europa. We can see we still have the European stars, but in the center we now have the Napoleonic eagle with the Napoleonic N below it. For the coat of arms of the Bonaparte-Bernadotte dynasty, he has done something similar, leaving the COA mostly unchanged, but also adding the little N in the center. Many titles in the empire are now also bearing the Bonaparte sigils. For example, in the Kingdom of Westphalia, the brother of Napoleon is landed as King Jean-Luc of Westphalia, and the COA also has the Napoleonic eagle and an N in it. Similar things were done for many titles like the duchies of Trier, Luxembourg, Utrecht, and more. To finalize the reorganization of the realm and securing the central powers of the emperor, Napoleon is also working on a new legal code and a constitution. But until that is done and the necessary funds collected, he will expand eastwards and march his troops into the territories of the de jure Kingdom of Hanover, integrating those into the empire. From time to time, Napoleon also has to defend against invaders. This time, the Duke of Picardy is attacking, but that really is not the first time, as many of the neighbors of Europa are fearing the new rising Bonaparte power and are trying to take it down. Our armies were victorious and have claimed most of the kingdom of Hanover. There we have established a local, Günther von Macke, as our Prince of Hanover, who has been the Bonaparte general in the push towards the east and has been rewarded with the title Prince of Hanover. While he is not the greatest military mind, his true value was the knowledge of the local lands. For his new COA, he has adopted the old Macke lion on the top left, the horse of Hanover on the top right, the lions of Brunswick on the bottom left, and the Napoleonic eagle on the bottom right. He will stay part of the Napoleonic conquests of the East, as the Emperor has announced a great offensive for the kingdoms of Brandenburg and Saxony, trying to unite the northern parts of Germany. And thus the expansionist policies have truly been enacted. In response to the aggressive expansion of Napoleon, the Pope of Rome has called for a crusade for Mosul to stop the expansions of the heathens, how they call us. Looking at the religious map mode, that now could really be the biggest challenge the young Europa has ever faced, as many lands are following once again the fanatic Catholic faith. And the enemies of the state are now coming for Mosul. In true Napoleonic style, European armies have chosen advantageous terrain to battle the armies of the Crusade and are beating them back for the first time now. After a valiant defense and many casualties within their ranks, the Bonaparte troops have beaten the Crusaders and were able to force peace upon them. Broken Cross, under the wise and pious leadership of Emperor Napoleon, the Strebenus faithful repelled the invaders and reaffirmed once more their claim over Mosul. Having repelled the Crusaders of the old Catholic order, Napoleon now has the power and the prestige to finalize the reformation of Europa. The Empire of Europa must be governed by laws, institutions and merit, not family inheritance and personal allegiances. A realm as large as this one will never be efficiently governed without an administration of able bureaucrats centered around our beautiful capital. Now, the main goal of the rewriting of our government system is to center all power within the empire towards the emperor himself, giving him absolute control over all government matters and all lands within the empire. And so the Empire of Europa shall adopt a centralized bureaucracy and become an administrative empire, being led by Napoleon into a new era. All the vassal kings of Europa now have stepped down from the feudal claims and accepted the title of a viceroy, personally granted from the emperor himself. While in theory, the government reform has brought back elections for the next emperor, in practice, the emperor himself designates his own heir, since he holds the most election power. Napoleon chose his oldest son, Louis. We are establishing the loyal subjects tradition for our culture, as the people feel a direct and permanent loyalty to the imperial throne. Emperor Napoleon has passed on at 70 years of age, having achieved many great things. The most important one is probably that he bound the throne of Europa to his dynasty for all times. In his place, Emperor Louis rises to power, choosing a regnal name for himself, adopting the name of his father as Napoleon Louis. Napoleon Louis continues the conquests in Germany, already provoking the Kingdom of France by attacking their direct allies. Large parts of Germany have been integrated into the Empire of Europa. The kingdoms of Saxony, Hesse and Württemberg, which was formerly known as the Kingdom of Swabia, have been conquered and are now largely controlled by the Bonaparte dynasty. In the west, the province of Pas-de-Calais has been annexed by Napoleon Louis a few months after proclaimed independence from Austria. That shall serve as staging ground for a great invasion of France. The emperor has decided that the weakened French are ready for taking. The French army simply cannot compete with the European forces. With the provinces between Aachen and Paris controlled by the emperor, the French are forced to accept defeat and give up their lands in the north. The Bonapartes and the true Bonaparte branch have reclaimed the old French homelands and are proclaiming themselves as the rightful kings of France. In the south, many states broke away from their former overlord and are now open for conquests. The southern territories were annexed by Napoleon Louis, and he has also replaced all the former Catholic rulers within the Kingdom of France with loyal members of the Bonaparte dynasty. As you can see, we have adapted all the COAs that formerly had fleur-de-lis within them, and they all now bear the sigils of the Napoleonic dynasty. Napoleon Louis will not stop the conquests, but will call upon his generals and his troops to conquer into the south of France, the south of Germania, and possibly even in the north into Britannia, Britain itself, and Scandinavia, as there are already footholds from some vessels. While having achieved great things like the conquest of half of Germany and the conquest of the French homelands, Napoleon Louis became known to history as the drunkard. Mostly that name came from occupied territories where rumors and lies were spread about him, and his drinking habits were absolutely overstated in order to damage his reputation. While tutoring his grandson César, he even quit drinking completely. By showing sufficient devotion and gathering the favor of the citizens, I can ensure that my dynasty is forever enshrined as a holy bloodline under divine protection. The emperor is consecrating the Bonaparte bloodline, forever enshrining it as a sacred lineage in the eyes of the European populace. But at 72 years of age, the great conqueror of France, Napoleon Louis, dies and passes his throne to his son, Lucien, who again claims the name Napoleon for himself, reigning as Napoleon Lucien. Napoleon Lucien carried out the invasion plans his father had already drawn up, conquering large territories in the south and conducting his own smaller campaigns in the north, like in Ireland. During these campaigns, he discovered his passion for the navy and subsequently developed it to a great extent. An intelligent and ambitious man, he has planned out an invasion of Portugal, where his new navy shall play a major role, landing at Lisboa and conquering the heart of the Portuguese kingdom. And so his invasion fleet set sail from southern France. After not meeting much of resistance at first, the Portuguese troops have finally been caught. It is about time, as the coffers of the empire are slowly running dry. After multiple battles and even more territory sieged down, the expedition fleet is finally able to proclaim victory. With all the territories of the Kingdom of Portugal conquered and Napoleon Lucien proclaimed as the rightful king of Portugal, most of the Portuguese vessels have proclaimed independence and are no longer feeling obliged to serve the old queen, thus without knowing weakening themselves and opening their principalities for the invasion of the Europeans. Having largely completed his conquests in Iberia for now, the emperor issues a new decree summoning Europe's exiled heirs and claimants to his court. I call upon the exiled, the cast off and the forgotten heirs of Europe. Bend the knee, swear loyalty to me, and I shall restore you to the lands of your fathers beneath the eagle of Europa. Many claimants will follow that call, and Napoleon Lucien will keep his word and will invade their homelands in the name of their claimants, granting them the title of viceroys beneath the emperor. Just a few years later, Napoleon Lucien has died, and his son, Napoleon César, has taken the throne. Seeing the genius in the plans of his father, he continues the former policies of conquest and claimant restorations, marching into Italy, Britannia, and many other lands. Being so successful in his campaigns and so prestigious, the Queen of Pandania, the Kingdom of Northern Italy, has bent the knee at Napoleon César's coronation and became a former tributary of the emperor. After many years of conquest, Napoleon César has conquered large parts of Europe, uniting most of the core territories of the ancient Empire of Europa under his banner. His armies, including 20 airships, are marching into every corner of the continent. So he will now proclaim the ancient Europa restored. Before the deluge, legends say that all of Europe was united under one flag. By retaking key territories of the old empire, we would win recognition in the eyes of the world as the true and rightful successor of the European empire. I will restore Europa. That grants us a new empire title, which has annexed all the de jure territories of all empires that we personally held before the decision. And we have also gained a new COA, which we will quickly change. So here we have the new COA of the Empire of Europa. We basically haven't changed much, but we now have more of the stars for the whole unity of Europe, and the N has replaced the center bottom star now. Napoleon Caesar now calls for his troops to bring unity to his new empire, conquering the last independent rebel states. But just before the continent could be truly united, another Napoleon rose to the throne as Napoleon Caesar died. The conquest of Tyrol is nearly done, but the kingdom of Padania has broken his oath of loyalty with the death of Napoleon Caesar, so that will be the last independent state in Europe when Napoleon Francois will face the last challenge. After a fairly unspectacular campaign of army chasing and small battles, we have finally caught Queen Isabella and can enforce the demands, truly uniting Europe under one banner. The Napoleonic eagles and European banners fly over all of Europe from Iceland to the southern tip of Sicily, truly uniting the continent under Bonaparte rule. The Strebenist faith is slowly spreading in the conquered territories, replacing the old order. The Empire of Europa is a multicultural state, with the heart of the empire being of the Renoir culture. Descending from a lineage of great men, the rise of the Bonapartes took around 190 years. The Bonaparte dynasty is stronger than ever, with 556 living members and 39 houses. They have fulfilled the bureaucracy and warfare dynasty legacies and advanced into the blood dynasty track. While on the other hand, the rival dynasty branch of the Bonapartes is completely extinct. Napoleon once stated, "I wish to found a European system, a European code of laws, a European judiciary. There would be but one people in Europe." And nearly 950 years later, his descendants have fulfilled his dream. But that is where we are gonna leave it. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please consider commenting, liking and subscribing. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you in the next one.